Back in 1993, Michael Jackson paid millions of dollars to settle an alleged child molestation case that was brought by the family of a 13-year-old boy. That case has many similarities to the criminal charges that the pop star is currently facing. Raymond Chandler is the uncle of the boy involved in the 1993 case. He's written a book about how it impacted the boy's family, and it's called All That Glitters. And Raymond Chandler is with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
This was put into a Dateline story that ran on NBC on Sunday night, and then you've done some interviews since. This is a self-published book, right?
Correct.
Okay. We first want to say that Michael Jackson responded to the Dateline story, and among the things he said, I've spent my entire life helping millions of children across the world. I would never harm a child. It's unfortunate that some individuals have seen fit to come forward and make a complaint that is completely false, to which you say.
Well, I think in Michael's mind, he doesn't think that having intimate relations with children is harming them. I think this is part of the mindset of the pedophile. It's not inconsistent for them to believe that this is okay. This is something it's okay to do.
Now, let's first establish what the relationship is between you and the young man who was involved in the case in 1993. You're the boy's uncle?
Yes, he's my nephew.
And now, what is your relationship with them currently?
I haven't had much relationship with them in the past few years.
And what was your interest then in writing this book then?
The interest really sparked up in me in 2003 when I saw Michael on that Martin Bashir piece
on ABC.
On ABC, with a boy who turned out to be the current accuser. When I saw him with holding hands, with his head on the shoulder, and then saying that famous thing about, oh, it's okay to share your bed with young boys. I would have thought after '93 that no parent would have allowed their children to be alone with this man.
Yeah.
And I think parents need to be reminded of that.
In your book, you talk about the relationship between Michael and your nephew. And your nephew, and you say that basically your contention is that Michael kind of seduced this family. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think everybody had a preconceived notion of who Michael Jackson was because of what we knew about him over the years, and so you start off thinking you know this man is an innocent, childlike, sweet man who would never hurt anybody, so right away you're defenseless. And as I explain in the book, over half the book, it was a slow and steady progression of getting the family, the parents, the boy into his confidence.
Right. How old was your nephew at the time this started?
He was 12 when he met Michael, and he turned 13 during the course of their relationship.
Yeah. As it turns out, now, your nephew's parents were divorced at the time, or they were...
They were divorced, and both had been remarried.
And both been remarried. How... does any, this is the question everybody asks, is how does any responsible parent allow their child to go into the keeping, in quotation marks, of basically a stranger?
And I think, excuse me, I don't think any responsible parent does allow it. And I think that's the key here. Part of it was the irresponsibility of the parents, particularly in the case of the boy's mother, who had custody of him and allowed him to sleep in all these places night after night for months.
Yeah.
With Michael.
Now, that's your brother then, that is the boy's father?
My brother's the boy's father.
Right. What was his reaction to all of this?
Well, he didn't know about the sleeping together for many, many months.
Right.
And he even had Michael come sleep over at his house in separate beds with a third child in the room, bunk beds. And they both he and his current wife also believed that Michael was just a sweet, innocent guy who loved to be around kids, and there was nothing wrong with it.
And when did he realize that this might not be the case?
He realized that Michael had spent 2 weekends at his house. And he realized it the second weekend when he went in the room in the middle of the night and found his son had moved out of his bed into Michael's bed. And they were fully clothed, but they were in this spooning position. And at that point he realized, cuddling, and he realized that whatever the nature of the relationship was unhealthy and had to be stopped.
Is your contention that your nephew was molested?
Oh, yes. Yes, I mean, he told this to the police, he told this to the psychiatrist, he described the molestation to police and psychiatrists in detail. And
this current case, you say, fits exactly the same modus operandi as what happened in 1993?
Well, actually, in the book, I don't discuss this case because I don't know the facts of it. There are certain similarities, yes, about how Michael gets himself into a family and gets them in his confidence. That's definitely a similarity, yes.
All right. Raymond Chandler, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Sharing your story with us.
Raymond Chandler's nephew was 13 years old back in 1993 when he accused Michael Jackson of molesting him. The case was settled for millions of dollars. Mr. Chandler, good morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So your nephew was 13 years old. The case, as I mentioned, never went to court. It was settled. Some reports estimate that $15 million were paid to your nephew, millions more to his parents, a total perhaps as much as $25 million. Those facts fairly accurate in your opinion?
I think so, yes.
Do you think the facts of that previous case and the settlement of that previous case should be admitted into the current trial?
Well, I think some of the facts should be, of course, it's up to the judge, but there was some very damaging evidence. That, of course, is the reason why Michael Jackson settled. He likes to claim that, you know, he just wanted to get on with his life, but as I detailed in my book, piece by piece, evidence by evidence, there was a mountain of evidence which finally made him give up.
So if your nephew were to testify in the current trial, how damaging, in your opinion, would his words be?
Well, let me just say here today that my nephew's not going to testify.
Well, let's talk about that, because we had heard reports that he did not want to testify, but we had not heard any definitive statement on that.
Well, this is a definitive statement. He's not showing up. He's out of the country where he cannot be found. He doesn't want to be the Michael Jackson boy. He doesn't want any involvement.
So even if he's subpoenaed by the prosecution, he will not return to this country to testify?
You know, that's whether the prosecution subpoenas him or not. I don't know, but I can tell you he's not going to show up this trial.
What are his reasons?
He's just sick of it. He's sick. Actually, it's the media, to be honest with you. He's hounded by the media. He's had to move several times because of being the Michael Jackson kid. He just doesn't want to be the Michael Jackson kid anymore.
How do you feel about that decision?
I don't like it. I think his testimony would be crucial to this case.
Have you spoken to him directly about it?
No, I have not.
His parents, I would imagine, have been in constant contact with him. How do they feel about it? How does his mother feel about it?
You know, I don't know how his mother feels about it. I can tell you that I'm pretty sure his mother's going to be called to testify and will be giving some very damaging evidence.
What would she say?
Well, she's going to be able to place her son alone in a bedroom with Michael Jackson at about conservatively 50 or 60 nights. So this is not just an impromptu sleepover. This is a relationship in her own home for 30 nights, in Michael Jackson's apartment in Los Angeles, at Neverland, in hotels in Las Vegas, New York, Paris, Monaco, every night, night after night, alone in the bedroom. So that's going to be very damaging.
Alone in a bedroom, spending time together, did she ever witness any sexual act between Michael Jackson and her son?
To my knowledge, no.
I'm curious, your nephew, and you say you haven't spoken to him about this, does he, I guess in no way he doesn't feel any obligation to testify, even considering that perhaps it might prevent future victims?
I think it was probably a very tough decision for him to weigh both sides, but obviously the side that he doesn't want to be involved and he doesn't want to be the Michael Jackson boy or have his picture taken, or you know, he just wants to move on with his life.
Does he feel any guilt about his decision, and the family, do they feel any guilt about their decision back in 1993, that perhaps had they testified in a criminal investigation or trial then, that this current case could have been avoided?
Well, you know, the decision was not really his at the time because he was a child. It was the family's decision, the parents' decision. But actually, you know, that's one of the biggest myths that's stuck around for 12 years, that they refused to testify at a criminal trial. Actually, they agreed to testify at a criminal trial, provided that be given witness protection. The death threats were so serious, you know, animals with their heads cut off left at the door, telephone threats coming in, people trying to get into the house, into the place of business, bomb threats. Last year, a spokesperson for the LADA's office confirmed that, in fact, that request was made and was denied. Had it been approved and they got protection, the criminal trial would have gone forward.
As you know, Michael Jackson's side in this says that these cases are all about money. People trying to get money from Michael Jackson.
Right.
By now, not agreeing or refusing to participate in this current trial, do you think your nephew risks that allegation cropping up again, that he was willing to settle out of court for money and not willing to go to the criminal process?
Right. Of course he risks that allegation, and you know, that's one of the reasons I'd like him to testify, and obviously to prevent other boys from spending the night alone with Michael Jackson. I think that's the most important thing. Obviously my nephew has his own concerns, and they're a priority to him.
But again, let's just make sure we understand the headline that comes out of this interview is that you are guaranteeing that your nephew, the alleged victim in the 1993 sexual molestation case against Michael Jackson, will refuse to testify in the current criminal trial.
That's what I'm saying. Barring some sort of epiphany on his part, or he has a revelation that maybe he's wrong and should change his mind. But yes, that's
And he's not in the country at this point. Were the prosecutors to try to reach him?
No, he's not.
Raymond Chandler. Mr. Chandler, thanks very much.